Good evening. My name is Dave Gesser, the incident commander with the Southwest Area, Team 3, bringing you today's update on the McCash fire with myself and Operations Sections Chief Trainee Brent Davidson. One of the things I wanted to talk about today before we bring Brent up is current size of the fire is 6,788 acres with 338 personnel. And with that personnel, that's a mixture of type 1 and type 2 hand crews, heavy equipment, which is dozers, we got mowers, masticators, the 2 helicopters that we do have, and also the variety of engines that we have. One of the things I wanted to talk about is, a lot of areas are in what we call a National Preparedness Level 5. So here in California, North Ops, and other areas, Washington, Montana, Idaho, and Oregon, we're all in these PL levels of 5, which is extreme. So there's a lot of fires going on in a lot of different areas. So resources are becoming very hard to get. So we've been fighting pretty hard to get resources in here to help us out with this fire. But knowing there's a lot of other fires going on throughout the country. With the Dixie fire and some of the other ones here in California and the new emerging one they got down on the El Dorado. There's a lot of resources down on those, but also, in some of the areas that I mentioned. So resources are short. It's hard to get resources. We're all competing for those resources and trying to do everything we can with what we have. So Brent will talk about that a little bit with the activity we had over the last couple of days and redirecting our resources into that point protection, and then also looking at where we can actually go in and do some more line construction in there as well. So this time I'll turn it over to Brent Davidson. Thanks.
Hey, good evening everybody. Brent Davidson, Operations Section Chief Trainee here with McCash and Southwest Team 3. Give you some information here on the fire up to today's date. So as Dave mentioned, lack of resources nationally and here in the area. What we were doing was working along the containment features that we made here between the 2 fire footprints, which I've mentioned before. We were doing some burnout operations and really having to focus a lot of the resources we had on the fire along this line with the burnout operations and holding those operations. Yesterday's change in the weather and the elevated winds and low RHs and things like that. The fire itself actually came across the Cub Creek area and the Yukon Creek here in a couple different places, and with the slope, terrain, fuels, and wind alignment, it made a really big push here to the south, and a little bit here to the southwest. With that, the fire threw a number of spots over our line and pretty far down here into the wilderness, and kind of peppered this whole area with spot fires. So with that, we pulled our resources out of the area after it was too much for them to contain or handle, and had to regroup a little bit. We had night resources in there last night and again tonight, and they did their best to monitor the fire, just see where it was headed to and see if there were any options to pick up any of that activity. Unfortunately, it was too much and inaccessible, and it's just not safe for firefighters to do so. So with that, today, as we regrouped and into last night, we focused the effort from the fire itself and from some of those burnout operations over to protection of the values and infrastructure. Prior to that, we had a number of resources in there working on lines around the communities and properties, really getting a good feel for the terrain features and what properties were there, as well as just coming up with a big plan and doing a lot of the structure protection and values protection activities. Moving into this morning, the resources that were in on the southern portion into the fire over here, really the majority of those resources shifted to all this structure and values protection over here along all these communities. So there was a lot of water handling equipment used today, large tanks, pumpkins, sprinkler kits, pumps, more heavy equipment, prepping lines, pushing dozer lines, and putting in hand lines, and a number of things over there in that area. In addition to that, today we did have some of the crews and some key overhead positions scouting along the road systems and some other features that we had looked at before, coming off of Yukon Lookout, and looking for opportunities to create another fuel break or indirect line, between these values, the 96 highway corridor, the Klamath River, and where the fire progressed to. So a lot of effort put into the southern and southwestern portions of the fire today, and a lot of good work going on out there with all the folks. So the fire itself, I'll speak to that a little bit. Very active today out here on the east side, out in the wilderness. The lighter colored shading, the hash marks here show the growth up until early afternoon, mid-afternoon today. Pretty active out there, kind of burning to the south at first and then into the southwest as well. The fire that crossed the Yukon Creek at the Cub Creek Yukon drainage confluence there continued to burn today, mostly influenced by the fuels and the terrain, burning uphill through one of the drainages and creek bottoms there and kind of getting up into the higher terrain. The wind influence kind of took over as it got higher and kind of kept it from moving too much further to the north. Moving around down here, we did have the spotting from the day before. Fire was active throughout the night last night and continued to back down toward Panther Creek here to the west, as well as the spots kind of increased in activity, came together and kind of created more of a fire that's mostly backing with some influence from the wind and continued to move to the south and southwest. Moving on from that part of the fire, we still have a group of firefighters and a division up here in the northern portion. They've been working on this indirect piece of line across the top between the wilderness boundary and the Independence Bridge Ferry Point area. They've been using mainly mechanized equipment up there, road graders, bulldozers, masticators, mowers, different things like that to create or reopen this line that was previously used in fires before in 2008, 2017. The majority of this line is all complete, at least with the dozer push. Now they're just working on falling snags, working with masticators and things like that to remove some of the brush, trees, and flammable material, so they have a feature that they can use if needed for burnout operations. Also, some more gathering of intel along the rest of the 96 corridor here within the fire area for more values that are out there, homes, things like that we can pay attention to. That's kind of a big picture of what's going on right now with the fire. Thanks, Brent.
So again, this is the opportunity for folks to put questions in the chat. We have us here, myself and Brent, to answer any questions. And currently we do have one in there from Misty on how many resources and personnel assigned. So as I mentioned early on, there's 383 personnel on the fire. I know there's one Type 1 hotshot crew. We got 2 Type 2 IA crews, and then 2 Type 2 crews, and then a handful of engines, and then a lot of heavy equipment, and 2 helicopters. One being a Type 2 helicopter, and then a Type 1 helicopter as well. One of the things that I do in the morning, at 8:30 in the morning, I get on a call for Northern California, and it has all the ICs and things on that, and we get updates on resource status, things like that. And I can tell you, this morning when I was on that call, we had 1,000 pending orders out there for crews, engines, and other things like that, and probably half of those have been getting unable to fill. So, a lot of folks competing for those resources. So we'll give it a little bit longer and see if anyone else has any other comments in there or questions.
So we have one question here. It's for Ops. It says, can the residents on T-Bar expect structure protection groups for assistance?
I'll let Brent handle that one.
So as I mentioned before, there's been some structure protection assessment and activity going on for a number of days, a week or better, in the area of T-Bar specifically, and some of the other areas on the fire. Today was a drastic increase in the number of resources there. So we do have, today we had, I believe it was three crews in the area, a number of engines and overhead, and then also some heavy equipment, some dozers, and some mowers and masticators in there. So actively in the T-Bar area as well as some of the others.
Thanks, Brent. We'll give it a few more minutes and see if there's any other questions in there. Again, remember, even after the end of this, if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. If not, we have a lot of information there with our Facebook page and NC Web, and you can get to folks that way with the PIO shop, and they'll take care of your questions. Looks like we do got another one in from Misty again. Do you expect this fire to cross the river? I love Brent.
Assuming Misty that you're talking about the Klamath River here. It is a possibility. There's still a lot of the fire season left at this point. A month, two left where this fire could burn, and some big wind events ahead for the fire, specifically some eastern winds. So, it's not out of the possibility of that happening. With that said, the work that we're putting in here along with some of these features, along with some options along the river corridor and the highway itself. There's a number of different barriers and opportunities for us, along with other people that are managing the incident, to take to try to avoid it from crossing the river.
So we do have another question there from Misty. How far from the Yukon Ranger Station is the fire? Yukon.
I think it's roughly about 15 miles up from Orleans and the Yukon Ranger Station to the fire area. Roughly about 15 miles, 17 miles.
Okay, and then we had another, well, it's not so much a question for you, but for Chris. I know you said you got on, Leanne. They just responded to you in the chat there, but this is recorded live, so you can go back and re-watch this, and they get the current details that we went over this morning. And then one from Chris: is there a prediction for the wind tomorrow?
There is. The forecasted winds for tomorrow are continued out of the northeast, which is not ideal for the fire and how it's been moving, but I believe they're 7 to 11 miles an hour with potential gusts in the 20s tomorrow is what the predicted winds are.
Okay, and then Misty again, she said sorry, she meant the T-Bar. So it must be the T-Bar Ranch or Ranger Station.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, okay. Roughly from T-Bar here, it's about, straight line is probably about 5 to 6 miles or so, something like that, air miles. A lot of terrain and things in between there, but straight line.
All right, then we got a question from Dale. Are you fixing the washouts on the Camp 3 road?
I believe those are what you're referring to are from previous fire incidents down in the southern area. Right now we have not been addressing those washouts. We did work on the bridge. There was a bridge out here on the northern portion that we did make a low water crossing for. We did some improvements to the road system down here at the bottom by T-Bar for access for some of our equipment.
All right, we got another question from Conrad. If reps from the Karuk tribe or MKWC are there, do they have anything to say? Yeah, so I'll get on. We don't have any reps here in the room at this time, but we have been working very closely with those folks, both out on the line and here in ICP. They've been working hand in hand with us and giving us a lot of good information on some of the historical sites, things out there, and also working with us on any of the dozer line, any new constructions, also any fuels treatments, things like that. So we've been working hand in hand with those folks.
Next question is Soames Bar or Orleans immediate risk? So no immediate risk to Soames Bar or Orleans at this time. I believe in the evacuation order it included all the way down to Soames Bar and up towards the Dillon campground here that was put in place this morning. But no immediate threat to those two communities.
And then we have one from Dawn. The estimated time for containment is still end of September?
That's correct. That's what's showing on there, end of September.
Question from Maria. Several residents on T-Bar have not seen any structure protection crews today or in the last few days.
Okay. Not sure where you're located in there, but yeah, there were I think upwards of 80 some folks in the between T-Bar, Patterson Ranch, and down Marble Mountain Ranch. So I know they're in there. I know they're working. They may not be directly at your residence, but they are also working on some of the plan around the community and the private land there. So there are definitely people working on those activities for protection of those communities.
Okay.
And continued, tomorrow there'll be people in there again.
So Desi's asking, is the highway going to be closed or limited traffic?
We've been working with Caltrans on that. We talked to them as there's any significant fire growth or smoke impacts, things like that. Nothing's closed at this point, but if there's a threat to the highway corridor, we'll work with them for closures or limited use.
And what is their percent of containment as of now?
0% containment on.
Okay. And then Chris, can you provide timeline for structure protection crews to get to neighborhoods on T-Bar? We are uncomfortable leaving our place if there are no structure protection here.
Understand. Specific timelines for specific residents, I can't provide that. There are quite a few different homes and residents and things in there. So, like I mentioned before, crews are in there. They are active. It's the majority of what we have on the fire is in T-Bar and some of those other surrounding communities. So, they're out there. They're making contacts with people and doing everything they can in those areas. So they're present. They're there.
The last question we have on there right now from Leanne: are hard closures in place in Patterson? So right now, we've done the evacuation order, so we can't, of course, force residents to go out. We notified residents. We are working on a closure order on the forest. They've been working on that. We should have some closure order with that. But I know currently the Marble Mountain Wilderness area is in a closure order, but we are currently working on the surrounding area for the forest to be on a closure order. But as far as a hard closure into the Patterson area, it's an evacuation order that's out there, but no hard closure. So currently that's all the questions we have at this time. We want to thank everyone for your time, the communities, the support we have out there, and all the partners that have been working with us with the team. We appreciate all the efforts out there and the support you all give the firefighters out there as well. They're doing a lot of hard work out there, trying to also keep those folks safe along with the public as well as our #1 priority. So really focusing our efforts now where the need is. So we appreciate that, and thank you for your time. We will do another meeting, Facebook Live tomorrow to just give an update again on where we're sitting with the fire and where the activities are. So if you have any other questions for us, we'll be back on tomorrow again. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.